Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Jacob Kaufman. I'm Nerd on the Street. It's October 19th, 2014, and this is Nerd on the Street News. So before I start today, I want to say this video will probably not be uploaded until Monday, and I've had that happen a couple times where the Nerd on the Street News episode has not been uploaded until Monday. And that's because even though I always record this video on Sunday and I try to edit it on Sunday, even when I do edit it on Sunday, it still takes a while to render. And, you know, I've got school on Monday, so sometimes I've got to put this stuff down and go do homework, unfortunately. But I would like to say that marching band season for my school is finally over. I go to Oakville High School, if you don't know. And yeah, we went to our last marching band competition yesterday, and that's what's really been keeping me from doing these videos on time, has been, you know, if I can't get them all the way completed on Sunday, the obvious solution would be to start them on Saturday. I couldn't do that because for the past few weeks, my entire Saturday has been taken up by marching band competitions. But like I said, our last competition was yesterday, and I will put a link in the description to a video of our show. And yeah, that will not be getting in the way anymore this year. So I will be getting this series uploaded, hopefully for the most part, actually on time from now on. So now that that's out of the way, MasterCard is going to start making credit cards with fingerprint sensors pretty soon. Right now the cards are slightly thicker than regular credit cards because there's a battery in them to power the fingerprint sensor. However, they're actually working on getting regular sized credit cards with fingerprint sensors in them. All the circuitry and everything just, you know, as thin as a regular credit card, and no battery in the credit card at all, because they're going to have you place the card, kind of plug it into a receptacle, and that receptacle will power the card. So that sounds pretty cool. You could have credit cards that don't use magnetic strips anymore, because apparently that's insecure somehow. I don't know how that's insecure. Oh, no, it doesn't have to do with the magnetic strips. You don't have to enter a PIN number anymore. So that's nice because, you know, you don't have to touch dirty buttons to enter your PIN number, and obviously people can look over your shoulder and see the PIN number, but they can't just look over your shoulder and steal your fingerprint. So yeah, that's cool. They're working with a Norwegian company called Zwype, Z-W-I-P-E, and they are developing the fingerprint recognition technology. So yeah, that's cool. One more note about that is the biometric data, so basically your fingerprint, that is stored on a data storage device within the card itself. It's not held on MasterCard servers, it's not held on Zwype servers, it's stored locally on the card. And that also means that people cannot bypass that at all. They can't forge MasterCard's server or Zwype's server. It's stored on the card itself, so sounds pretty secure. Obviously people will figure out some way to get around it eventually, but yeah, that's pretty cool that they're doing that. Now, it's also mentioned in the article that Apple Pay will go live tomorrow on Monday in the United States, allowing owners of iPhone 6s, 6 Pluses, or 5Ss to link MasterCards issued by US banks to their phones and make contactless payments. Now, the problem I have with them saying, oh, this is going to go live, is that I have not seen a single store that actually plans on implementing it. Maybe in some really ritzy neighborhood there's a really fancy restaurant or something, or a really fancy, I don't know what kind of store it would accept that kind of thing, but yeah, it's going to be an investment for companies to look at Apple Pay devices and recognize those. And it will be an investment for businesses to take MasterCard devices with fingerprint sensors in them too, since it's a separate kind of receptacle that they need to use those. But if MasterCard says, hey, this is our new credit card lineup, then companies are going to have to get with the picture. If Apple says, hey, this is our new payment option, then it's going to be an optional thing that companies aren't necessarily going to have to comply with. Moving along, Mozilla is making an open chat solution, open as in it's using an open source protocol. They're calling it Firefox Hello. Not the best name, but it will be built into Firefox, and any web browser that supports WebRTC, that is a chat protocol, will be able to call and chat with people using Firefox Hello. And right now, both Chrome and Opera natively support WebRTC. So even though they don't have clients for this, they can get links that they can use to call people with Firefox Hello. So yeah, it sounds like what Mozilla is trying to do is, right now if you sign up for Google Plus and start sending messages through Google Plus, you're trusting Google Plus with your conversation data. If you sign up for Skype and start sending things through Skype, you're trusting Skype and you're trusting Microsoft to handle your data and not leak it. It sounds like what Mozilla wants to do is they want to make a chat solution where it's peer-to-peer. You don't have to trust any third party to handle your information. It just goes from you to the person you're talking to, and that's it. And I agree that's the way it's supposed to be. Now, Firefox Hello actually requires a Firefox account right now, which does store information on Mozilla servers. So it'll be interesting to see how they shift away from that and towards just anybody being able to use this. Alright, there's a company called TwitPic. You've probably heard of it if you spend a lot of time on Twitter. If you haven't heard of the company itself, you've probably at least seen links that were links to TwitPic pages. TwitPic is basically, it was a picture host for Twitter. So if you wanted to put a picture on Twitter, I don't think Twitter natively supports uploading pictures. If they do, then it was recently added and it was not there from the beginning. So TwitPic was one of the websites you could upload pictures to share on Twitter. Now with other companies such as Instagram and Tumblr jumping in and allowing people to upload images to them, TwitPic has really been going down in terms of usage. And first it was being shut down last month due to a trademark dispute with Twitter because TwitPic was obviously made for users of Twitter, and Twitter was saying, hey, you're not official, you can't use our Twit name like that, although that's really weak. Trademark issues aside, that happened, and then last month they said that they were going to stay alive thanks to an acquisition. They didn't actually name who was acquiring them. They just said, someone's about to buy us, so you should back off. And then nobody bought them. So yeah, this article is really just about TwitPic bluffing about an acquisition, because they still haven't. They've said the acquisition has been canceled. They still have not said what the company was that was going to buy them. So yeah, TwitPic is still going to die. Speaking of dying, AMD is dying. Well, not necessarily, but they are firing 7% of their staff. Now this is an issue. We've seen Microsoft fire a whole lot of people. We've seen, I don't remember if it was Google or what, but we've seen other companies firing people recently. Now AMD is firing people. Now, the population of the planet is going up, but the amount of people that these companies want to hire is going down. You could see how that's going to become a problem eventually. I support companies getting rid of bureaucracy in favor of just getting things done, but I mean, come on. This is a new CEO that just came in. It does not name her. Oh, her name is Lisa Su, and yeah, she just came in last week. She entered the company, she's the CEO now, and she just immediately fires 7% of the company. Now, AMD has actually been struggling for the past couple of years because as desktop and laptop sales are going down, AMD chips are not being used as much. AMD used to be just a processor company. Now, AMD did buy ATI a while back, so AMD is making graphics cards now. So yeah, they're going to be focusing more and more on graphics, on custom processors for like custom embedded devices, and also they'll be focusing on devices such as gaming consoles. They are also focusing on ARM processors for servers. So yeah, AMD is like a major competitor in terms of like custom built PCs. So yeah, it would be a shame if they went down because then Intel would have a monopoly. I know sometimes I knock on AMD. I don't know if you've ever heard me just casually say, oh yeah, my old AMD laptop, this or that. But really, I don't have a problem with AMD processors at all. I mean, they work fine. Yeah, so we'll see how that plays out, but it does suck that they're firing so many people. Next up, there is an app called Whisper that supposedly lets people have anonymous conversations. The entire point of the app is for people to be able to have anonymous conversations with each other. Now it turns out that they could have been sharing data from their anonymous conversations and user location data of the users having anonymous conversations with government agencies, even if you opt out of location tracking. So that just gets worse and worse, doesn't it? The entire Whisper's tagline is, it's to anonymously share, it's a platform to anonymously share innermost thoughts, secrets, and feelings. And yeah, it's completely privacy focused. And now it turns out that it is tracking users. And that much is for sure. They're pretty much certainly tracking users' locations. Now what Whisper is saying is, hey, we're not sharing your individual location. We're just sharing a Whisper user's location with the government. But it really doesn't matter. Why do you need to share my location? Even if you take away Jacob Kaufman and make it user number 12345, why do you have to share my location at all? How is it useful to you if you really can't identify me at all? They actually updated their privacy policy while this conversation was happening. And now the privacy policy allows the app to determine the user's location based on the IP address, once again, even when location services are disabled on your device. And it now allows the company to disclose information such as posts, IP addresses, and a user's general location to government agencies. And that just happened last Monday. And I am not going to use a privacy-oriented application that blatantly says that they will share my information with third parties. That's just stupid. Why would they? I really hope that they go out of business fast. I mean, take a look at this. Whisper said it had noticed how frequently suicide was mentioned by people living on U.S. military bases or compounds, and reached out to organizations to see how they could work together to address this important issue. The information shared was not personally identifiable. How would it help? How would it help to say somebody in this general area was talking about suicide? I want to know how they think that that's going to help anything. And obviously it's not going to help anything. That's what would that statistic even help organizations with that are trying to help veterans? All of this points to very fishy stuff. Don't use Whisper because they are going to leak anything you give them, or at least you should assume that much. I know that that might be overstating it, but really you should not take that kind of risk, especially when they're doing things like that with their privacy policy. Onto a bit of a cooler topic. Google has refined their Classroom platform, and Google Classroom, if you don't know, is a web-based app for education. My school started using it this year. We've been using Google Apps for 3 years, and this year they started using Google Classroom. And I have to say, I absolutely love Google Classroom. I know a lot of the teachers don't, because a lot of the teachers just don't like computers at all because they're just anti-moving the human race forward. But the teachers who are actually reasonable and who are actually willing to learn how to use computers, period, are actually really liking Google Classroom. And like I said, so am I. It's a very clean, very nice interface. It allows teachers to assign assignments to students. Students can attach Google Drive files to those assignments and then turn them back in. Now they have integrated Google Classroom with Google Groups so that teachers can create Google Groups like a group for their students and then send an assignment just to that group. So that's nice. Another new feature is that teachers can now download grades for all assignments at once. I could see how that would be very useful for teachers who put in all of their grades like at the same time at the end of every week or at the end of every grading period. So yeah, Classroom is pretty new. So some of this stuff you might be saying, how did they even miss that in the first place? But really, I think it's good that they're listening to feedback they're getting from teachers and schools, and they're improving the software in real time. Like I said, this hasn't been out for a while and they're already making it better, so that's great job, Google. So that was a nice short break from the privacy debate, but now we're back again. FBI director calls for greater police access to communications. Seriously? Really? So the United States FBI director, James Comey, said that... Is that really his name? Comey. FBI Director James Comey said that Apple and Google should reconsider their plans to enable encryption by default on their smartphones. And he says that Congress should pass a law requiring that all communication tools allow police access to user data. I'm trying to figure out if he's kidding. I mean, he's obviously not kidding based on his speech that he gave, but really, he's basically telling us, don't use encryption. It makes our job too difficult. I don't care how difficult it makes your job. I don't want you looking at my stuff. There's already a law that was written about 20 years ago. It's called the Communications Assistance for Law Enforcement Act, and it requires telecom carriers to give police access to telephone conversations. That right there, why did they need to do that? Now there's a group who wants to update that to make it apply to any data stored on cell phones at all. As you can imagine, there are several members of government who are against this movement, but I think it's a problem that we have people thinking this way at all in our government. He said, are we so mistrustful of government and of law enforcement that we are willing to let bad guys walk away? Yes. And my question is, are you so mistrustful of citizens that you're willing to take away our privacy? Won't spend too long on that one. There was another article I found on the topic. This one's talking about how the FBI director, the same guy, said that tech companies should not be allowed to put cryptographic locks at all on mobile devices, and he also said that tech companies should be required to put backdoors into their devices. And that's just stupid. And now we've got people in the tech industry speaking out against that. We have several engineers at companies like Micron, Intel, Samsung, Seagate, and these manufacturers make SSDs that are self-encrypting, so they know about encryption. And they're pointing out the obvious fact that if you put backdoors into your products for the government to access, somebody else eventually is going to come along and figure out how to access it themselves. Seriously, think about it. If you put that backdoor into your software, if you say, all right, we're going to let police access this device just on demand, a hacker could come up And a hacker is going to come up eventually, and they're going to crack that backdoor and figure out how to get in. And we'll change the backdoor, we'll patch it up, we'll make it so the police can access it and nobody else again. And then, you know, a year later, some other hacker is going to figure out how to break that one. This is a really good example of government officials not understanding how technology works at all, if they can seriously expect to create a secure backdoor. This article mentions that it's kind of ironic that the encryption specifications that they are trying to outlaw now were created by the government's own National Institute of Standards and Technology over a decade ago. So the government makes these encryption tools so that we can't see what they're doing, and now they want to make it illegal for us to use them. And there was a third article that I found that it's about the exact same thing, and it's almost the exact same article, but this one had a little bit of a different ending to it. It had this quote. He said, "My goal today isn't to tell people what to do. My goal is to urge our fellow citizens to participate in a conversation as a country about where we are and where we want to be with respect to the authority of law enforcement." And I think that that's a good quote because we do need to do that. We need to, as a country, or the people in charge as a country, I guess I'm not voting yet, but the people in charge as a country should think about and talk about how much authority do we want to give law enforcement. Maybe we've given them too much and we need to tone it back. Because anytime these guys are saying, we deserve backdoors to your stuff, we deserve to be able to get to your private information, that is assuming that we want them to do that. And if we don't want them to have that much authority, we need to talk about that and express that openly. So after all of those serious articles, I found a nice humorous one to lighten the mood. Now you hear IT departments saying things about massive data centers and gigantic data centers and huge data centers and super data centers and mega data centers. But what does all of that mean? Well, I can't tell if it was a joke or not. This article is talking about another article, and it's the original article that was apparently trying to classify what all of those different words mean. They took the words mega, massive, large, medium, small, and mini, and they assign definitions to those. So if your data center has at least 9,001 storage racks, then it's a mega data center. If it has between 3,000 and 9,000, then it's only a massive data center. But it did not mention the word gigantic anywhere. So if you're an IT department and you're trying to get your management to let you build a huge data center, call it gigantic. And finally, I found a really super entertaining article in Ars Technica, and this isn't really news, this is just something that I thought you would enjoy. Opening an internet time capsule. Internet in a box for Windows 95. This guy found this internet connection starter kit at a thrift shop, and it was made for Windows 95, and it's really only been 19 years since 1995. It is 2014. So yeah, pretty basic math, I know. But it is amazing how much has changed in the internet. So yeah, he documents he bought this thing. First, he contacted the Smithsonian to see if they wanted it. Smithsonian obviously didn't respond. So then he unboxed it, he documented it. He's got a ton of pictures, ton of screenshots. He tried to install it on his Windows 95 virtual machine that he created. He has not gotten it working yet because he has not been able to create a virtual modem yet. But yeah, he's still got a ton of screenshots from like the setup wizard and everything, and it's got like it's got a PowerPoint from 1995 that tries to explain what the internet is. So yeah, I'm gonna throw that in the description. You can take a look at it if you want. So yeah, once again, sorry that this was a bit late this week. Like I said, I will have all Saturday to work on videos now in the coming weeks, because that's what I do in my weekends. I make YouTube videos. Other people hang out. I'm just making videos. If you want to help me make videos, then you can head on over to our subreddit at reddit.com/r/nerdonthestreet and post stories that you think are interesting. I should probably check it. I never actually check it until I'm in the middle of recording. Nope, nobody has posted anything. So yeah, r/nerdonthestreet is the Nerd on the Street subreddit, and it is for this show in particular. Go on to PC World, go on to Computer World, go on to Ars Technica or TechCrunch. I forgot to check TechCrunch this week. Go on to whatever your favorite news site is. Maybe it's one I've never heard of. And find interesting stories. And if there's a story that you think that this audience is going to want to hear about, post it on the subreddit and I'll talk about it. So yeah, that is just about all for this week. I'm Jacob Kaufman, I'm Nerd on the Street, and I will see you guys later. See ya.